Okay, everyone, welcome. Welcome to the first official program. Sorry. Hope you all heard that, but welcome to the first official program of 2021. We're glad to have you all here. We've got an amazing group of panelists and we'll jump right into it real quick, but I wanted to first introduce myself. I'm Lindsay Carlson. I am AZ Crew's president this year. And I'm excited for all of the upcoming events that we have planned. I think it's going to be a great year with both hybrid programs, virtual programs, as well as in-person programs. So look for some of our announcements coming out. I wanted to highlight a few coming up. We have next month, we have Spencer Levy, who's going to be giving an economic update. We also have a 5K coming up. You can either do it virtually or in person, so look for announcements on that. And then lastly, we have our Golf Fiesta that's in May, which is our fundraiser for New Pathways for Youth. So please make sure to look at our newsletters that go out every week and register for those events. So we'll get started with why you all are here today. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our economic development panelists today. We have 4 economic developers from 4 of the top 10 largest cities in the Valley. I'm first going to introduce Samantha Pinkle, who is Project Manager, Economic Development Department with the City of Surprise. Next, we'll have Christine Mackey, who is the Director of Community and Economic Development with the City of Phoenix. Third, we'll have Kristen Hall, who's Business Attraction Program Manager, Economic Development Services Department with the City of Peoria. And last but certainly not least, we have Jesse Peterson, who's the Assistant Director, Office of Economic Development, City of Glendale. So we will let them get started. Samantha Pinkle is going to start us off here with an overview of the Northwest Valley and all that's exciting and new, and a lot of vertical development and semiconductors. So it should be a great program. So go ahead, Sam, when you're ready.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks so much to AZ Crew for hosting. Thank you to my fellow panelists for assembling and joining today. And thank you to all of you for attending. It's really exciting to have such a big crowd. So yeah, why are we talking about the Northwest Valley? What's there that makes this the newest advanced industry corridor? Well, from an economic development perspective, we see 10 specific economic factors that offer macroeconomic elements to support development and business success. That's what we'll run through today, just to lay a foundation for what you'll hear from each of the individual panelists for the respective cities. And it'll give you a more holistic understanding of the regional assets and how they work together. So what you're looking at here is a map of the Northwest Valley. These boundaries are self-assigned. They're not official, but what we're looking at is on the south end is Peoria Avenue. On the east is I-17. On the north is the county line. And to the west is Perryville Road. So we define the area primarily to help MAG to gather data so that we can look at this in a very numerical way. Phoenix is shown on the east side in that rust color. Glendale is in blue, Peoria is in purple, and Surprise is in green. Youngtown and El Mirage are also shown in a yellow and a light purple, and anything in white you see is a county jurisdiction and includes the Sun City communities. So let's get started here. So one of the first and very foundational elements of success is residential growth. And we don't need to spend a lot of time here because you all know every headline, at least one headline a day, is about the residential growth that we're seeing in Phoenix. And the fact is that the majority of this growth has to happen on the perimeter of the metro. Developments in the Northwest Valley are submitting for thousands of home permits per year, and is projected to do so for the next 10 years. In Surprise alone, we're expecting 3,000 home permits annually. I'll let the other ladies speak to their cities individually, but it's pretty significant. It's also worth noting that the home sale price has crept up a little bit over the past 5 years, nearly about maybe 50%, 75% increase in the home value in this area. And you've probably heard by now from our friends at Westmark that 1.7 million people live in the West Valley. When we ran the numbers in these boundaries, we found that about a third of those people live in the Northwest Valley. So with a total population of around 630,000, over half of those residents are of working age. And I think it's worth noting that when you compare the percentage that's over 65 to the percentage that's under 18, it's pretty dang close. Gone are the days of the Northwest Valley being a retirement corridor. The youths are about to overtake the retirees very shortly. And all of these stats are inclusive of the Sun City communities in that area. Let's see. And the residents of the Northwest Valley are pretty well educated. 66% of the population has at least some college education. And there are several established universities with a variety of specializations growing and thriving with their campuses in the Northwest Valley. And a university presence in a city is a huge bonus. Look what schools like ASU, NAU, U of A have done for their respective cities. Not only does it provide a workforce pipeline, but it also provides the opportunity for us to attract businesses and create unique public-private partnerships. Sintra from Westmark also likes to say that the West Valley has a quiet wealth, and I would agree with that. She is not wrong. The median household income is a healthy $67,000, and I was pleasantly surprised to learn that nearly a third of the households in this valley, this region of the valley, earn over $100,000 or more. Even the retirees in this region are financially secure. Surprise and Sun City were ranked number 2 and number 4, respectively, on a list of most secure, financially secure seniors on a list published by Smart Asset. And excuse me, I ran just a quick search on Zillow last week to see what's a $1 million house market look like in this area. And you can see several in the, let's see, in the red, those are the ones that are currently for sale, over $1 million. And in yellow, those are the ones that have sold within the last year. So there's some pretty significant properties up here. Oops. So we also know that from a quality of life perspective, that retail and entertainment centers are a super important element for employee attention or attraction and retention. There's no shortage of either of those in the region, with established retail centers at Anthem, Norterra, Arrowhead Town Center, the new auto dealers at BMW, Volvo, Land Rover, and Jag, P83, Surprise Marketplace, 2 spring training stadiums, home to 4 teams. And we have a lot of other destinations that are nearby, the Tanger Outlets, the Entertainment District at Westgate, World Life World Zoo, and there's lots of things to do outside. The White Tank Mountain Park, the Peoria Regional Preserve, Lake Pleasant, and a few notable golf courses like Quintero and Trilogy. And you probably saw last week the headlines that Sterling Grove has opened as of Friday to the public. That's a new 18-hole Nicklaus golf course in Surprise. That'll be open to the public for a very limited time, so make sure that you book your tee time soon. Let me know if you need someone to play with you. And it's also worth bringing up the retail sales tax collection and the performance that we saw in 2020. You may have seen some headlines that turned out to be surprisingly good. For Surprise specifically, we're actually seeing in excess of what we expected to collect in the double digits, in the 20 and 30% above what we expected. So that just goes back to that affluence conversation that we had and the residential growth that we're seeing. From a technology and innovation perspective, the Northwest Valley has a really strong foundation in both of those. We have 2 WestMet campuses that provide career and technical education to both high school students and adults. We have a startup incubator, a small business accelerator in Surprise called the AZ Techcelerator. The West Valley Innovation Alliance, which helps tech companies get products ready, startup investors ready, and residents skilled for tech employment. And now, which I'm sure you're all very interested to hear about, a new marquee technology company planting flag like TSMC. You'll hear more from Chris about that one. We also have a lot of established and growing employment centers in the Northwest Valley. They're scattered around the region here, as you see. And historically, they have been anchored by distribution and manufacturing employers because of the proximity to California and the West Coast markets, and also just the availability of land. But as our demographics continue to evolve, our skilled workforce continues to mount, and events like COVID change the way people work, more commercial and enterprise employers are planting flags as well. We also have some really great transportation corridors in the Valley. We've got 2 of the 3 loops, 2 highways, the 60 as well as 74, and we have I-17. And most importantly, most uniquely, we've got rail. And we have some rail spurs which serve a couple different industrial parks in the Valley, which are very rare and very unique. Even for commercial flights, you see that we have 3 regional airports that can serve smaller jets. But if we were to look at a commercial service, even the northwestiest location of Surprise is only 40 minutes from Sky Harbor. This region of the Valley has been really well served by the Banner healthcare system for a long time because of the Sun City communities. But as the population has grown and our demographics changed, many of the other systems in town have established campuses, and they offer a variety of services to the residents. Abrazo, Dignity, Valleywise, Honor has several campuses, as you see, and most excitingly, and most recently, Quorum Health at the Peoria Regional Hospital. I'm sure Kirsten will tell us more about that. And then finally, there's room to grow. There's room to grow in the Northwest Valley, as you can see here. So there's already a lot going on in the Northwest Valley, and maybe it was more than you realized. So now that you've got a good foundational understanding of the region, I'm going to hand it off to Chris Mackey to dive deeper into what you can see from Phoenix.
Thanks so much, Samantha, and thanks for having me here today. I'm going to start off with just a quick story about how I got to Phoenix and this particular area. So as many of you know, I was Chandler's economic developer for about 16 years. And back in 2014, city managers asked me to join the team here. And I was fortunate enough that they selected me. But I can tell you, going from 71 square miles to 517 square miles of a playground, at first I thought was this really great thing. I was so excited. I woke up on the morning of month 4 in cold sweats and panic stricken over how big this city is and how challenging things are. And, dealing with high rises. I'd been a suburban economic developer my entire career, and what you're now facing and leading a larger team, and, As you look forward, I really did. By month 8, I was thinking about going to the city manager and telling him I just wasn't smart enough to do this. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't capable, and I needed to go back to what I really understood. And I was going to a meeting out at Honeywell in Deer Valley. And so at that time, I still lived in South Chandler. I jumped off the 101 on 7th Street and started going north. And that's where Kathy Thuringer saved my career and saved my life. Trammell Crow was under construction with a project at Lone Cactus and 7th Street, which was really familiar to me. It was product I understood. It was a market I understood. I started looking around, and Kathy still doesn't know this, that she saved my career as the economic development director for Phoenix by having a project that was under construction back in 2014, early 2015. I saw this Northwest corridor and realized that I'd absolutely psyched myself out, that this was so much of what I saw and what I knew from helping to build Chandler into this major tech hub. When I got there in 1998, it was cornfields and dairies and open space and open desert. And we were fortunate enough to get to do all kinds of great things together. And when I look at this North I-17 Northwest Valley corridor, it's exactly what I see, is so much opportunity and so many great, down to Deer Valley Airport being located right in this particular area, and just lots of great land and an incredible workforce that surrounds it. This northern end of the valley is exactly what you saw, 20 years ago in the Southeast Valley. And this is really the new opportunity for the region. And one thing I know everyone is very interested in talking about here, and then I'll go into a few other details, of course, is Biscuit Flats. So imagine that you're Mayor Gallego, me, Sandra Watson, and Chris Camacho, and you're going into Taiwan to finalize the pitch on why TSMC should choose Phoenix. And you're going in with a pitch that markets an area known as Biscuit Flats, bordered on the west by Dead Man's Wash. So you kind of think about it as to, well, that was really what they always think about Phoenix or Arizona anyway. So it played well for us. I can tell you, I even found out who the one man is that Dead Man's Wash is named after, because the Taiwanese wanted to know who the wash was named after. So I had to find that out as well. So a few months ago, we were incredibly fortunate that TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, chose Phoenix and Biscuit Flats for their next US presence. And they did acquire through state land auction 1,200 acres that's bounded on the east by 43rd Avenue, on the north kind of by a jog of Dove Valley, on the south by the 303, and by the west by Dead Man's Wash. And they will start construction on a 5 nanometer, a world-class 5 nanometer manufacturing facility here in late March, early April. So we're moving through that process now, and we'll probably see their groundbreaking, their ground dedication probably here later this spring. So this is a $12 billion capital investment on that first 300 acres of building these 2 factories, about 1,900 new jobs coming into the area. So if that's not good enough, of course, you have all of the area that surrounds them. As we were going through zoning this past summer, when people asked me what I did over the summer, well, I worked on the team that got to zone Biscuit Flats into being a high-tech mecca. And so the area surrounding it is zoned now completely, all 3,400 acres is zoned as a technology park, a science park. Think hotels, think retail, commercial, up along the I-17, additional office space, some pretty great densities are allowed in this area. But this is just the first 3,400 acres of Biscuit Flats that is 12,000 acres. So you'll see south of the 303 and west of Dead Man's Wash, or all of that western portion of Phoenix, moving forward through zoning. In those areas, it's single family residential, high density residential, additional economic development, and really looking forward to moving forward on that zoning application later this year. As you look in that North I-17 corridor, while we kind of, as Samantha said, we kind of put this self-imposed boundary of I-17, if you look to the south of where Biscuit Flats is located, you have incredible office and industrial development. So you've got Safeway's corporate headquarters, PetSmart's corporate headquarters. You've got on the eastern side of Biscuit Flats, you've got the new Sonoran, the Sonoran Honor Health Hospital that just opened. You've got Honeywell, you've got USAA that just added 1,100 new IT individuals. You've got farmers that continues to grow, and all kinds of great industrial and biosciences development in this market. So you've got Norterra, Samantha mentioned about 3,000 single family residential permits in Surprise. Norterra will pull several thousand residential permits by itself in this 24-month period of time. Seems to be an area that's just growing like crazy. New Fry's grocery store going in on Joe Max and I-17, and lots of new office and industrial development. That Dove Valley corridor, as you go to the west, it is, you kind of the 303 corridor, which becomes the Sonoran Desert Drive and circles around all the way to Desert Ridge, Paradise Ridge, and the 101 on that area. An absolutely gorgeous drive. But as you all know, Deer Valley is one of the single hottest industrial markets in the region and doing incredibly well. But Phoenix, much to my surprise, how long Phoenix really is, that I-17 for us goes all the way north of New River, and we'll continue to see significant growth and development on jobs generating in this area. So much like you saw of the Southeast Valley 20 years ago, that's the development that you're seeing in Deer Valley and along Dove Valley and Biscuit Flats and that Northwest corridor through Surprise and Glendale and Peoria as well. So I thank you very much. I'm excited to hear all my other colleagues' overview of what's going on for them in their market, but expect new auctions coming in Biscuit Flats here in very short order to provide new and additional jobs generating and tech corridor support around TSMC. So thanks for having me.
So I think that means I'm up.
Sorry, I'm supposed to introduce you. I apologize.
That's okay, Chris. Great job, Chris. And I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank AZ Crew for the opportunity. to join this awesome and impressive panel, and to the awesome and impressive audience. I was getting to look at the attendee list, and I'm super excited to be here. And in Glendale, we genuinely appreciate getting to tell our North Glendale story, especially during a time when there's been so much focus on our sports and entertainment district further south along the Loop 101 and our Loop 303 development boom that's taking place. And we're not complaining. We're grateful for the diversity of industry that our city's geographic location affords us. But as Sam pointed out in the regional overview, and as Chris just mentioned, North Glendale and this entire Northwest region most definitely holds its own. On this first slide, I did want to take a moment to zoom into this particular part of Glendale, as I think this visual here on the screen helps show what makes us a little bit unique in this group today, because for all respective purposes, we would consider this part of Glendale built out. But that's not to say that there isn't opportunity. It's important, if you look here, you'll see already some of those really major assets that have been pointed out already, but just gonna do it again to show a little love. You see educational partners like Midwestern University there, right along the Loop 101, the medical school. You see Honeywell just south of that. You see the ever expanding Arizona Christian University there south on the 59th Avenue. You see Arrowhead Town Center there, which we'll talk about in a little while, as well as Banner Thunderbird, and many others in this area. Also, we recognize the absolute value of the affluence that does densely populate this area. So that Arrowhead residential community to the north there of the Loop 101 with Arrowhead Ranch, Arrowhead Lakes 1 and 2. Then you see residential there south of Bell Road. All of that helps afford this region the access to some of the highest household incomes for this particular area that you see bordered in red. The average is just shy of 100,000 for the highest household incomes there. High educational attainment, as Sam had pointed out, and our median age in this area is about mid-30s. So that predominantly professional, well-skilled, young workforce can't and shouldn't go unnoticed. But what do you do as a city to capitalize on these elements of success when your most prosperous area is all built out? You get creative. So on the next slide, we show you that our philosophy is not just to achieve sustainability as a city. Our drive is for adaptability. And I want to give a quick nod to our leadership here in Glendale that not only supports this type of thinking, but encourages and motivates it too. I think from the economic development professional side, any one of us who's been able to think as far outside the box as we've had to make a project happen can certainly appreciate knowing that you have support to do so. And we've really, really had to be able to do that in order to continue to maximize the opportunity in this area. So I'm going to be cognizant of time. So I've taken just 3 particular examples in this area that I'll dive into that I think really illustrate how we as a city have approached and supported adaptability and gotten creative with our partners. So on the next slide, this first example is the Aspera development. So since the late 1970s, these 220 acres serve as a megachurch campus at the northwest corner of 75th Avenue in the Loop 101. It's been a goal of the Community Church of Joy, which was the anchor church there since I believe 1995, to maximize the usage of the land, but it was also super key to that development that it be mission driven. So that's a unique need required from a partner, and it requires the right developer and flexibility from the city to ensure that the uses that were going to be attracted to that site were lucrative for all and still compatible with the church that was going to stay in operation. So Carden Development, run by Don Carden, fully understood that mission. And as close partners at the city, we worked together and helped create a mixed-use project that includes a variety of things. So restaurants, there's a Mountainside Fitness there, a density of luxury residential that was really needed here in the West Valley, in the Northwest Valley specifically, with nearly 300 units at the award-winning Bel Air that's there. That was a PB Bell product that also PB Bell did the senior living that's there. And then Kurt and Brenda Warner, so we know Kurt Warner from the Arizona Cardinals, built the Treasure House there, which is an active living community for young adults with developmental disabilities. And part of the uniqueness of that and why Don Carden really proved to be the best partner for this was Don saw the Treasure House in a partnership with Kurt Warner as an opportunity also for his daughter to have a future place for her to live. And so that partnership really hit home for him. And then most recently, the addition of 184,000 square foot Banner Medical Center at Aspera that is nearing completion here. So this is one of those projects that we're really proud of when a partner comes and says, you know, we need to meet a particular mission, and that value proposition again for developing in the Northwest Valley was seen with the mix that we were able to accomplish here at Aspera. So then on the next slide, the next example is the luxury auto complex that's actually just south of Aspera. So if we start to think about, you know, how a development like Aspera can start to add more value and, you know, more benefit and attraction to an area, just south along the bend there is land that many would have suggested was not worth developing. So this definitely took some adaptability. So it's not an ideal location. Technically, it's in a wash, and access to the property, as you can see there, is limited on a one-way frontage to the Loop 101. The city owned a portion of that property and had intended to pave it for a park and ride lot. But when the market demanded an opportunity to help our partners bring a BMW dealership to the West Valley, it was time for us to think creatively. And those long-standing relationships in the development community showed that there's trust in us to think outside the box and ensure a project like this was possible. And so you can see in that picture, what's closest to us is the BMW dealership. In 2018, they opened their doors. And this was, again, the first dealership in the West Valley. And then subsequently, that paved the way for Volvo, which is the next building north, which just opened in December of 2020. And then Land Rover and Jag that officially opened their doors this week. You can also see in that picture that just further north, there's multifamily residential that came because this was no longer a piece of land that wasn't developable. It was a hot market. And in short order, there'll be no vacant land to be seen once on this once deemed undevelopable stretch. So this shows, and this is another proof that we see as the market dictating and the benefit of investing in the Northwest Valley most definitely outweighed any challenges that this particular property could have presented. So then on the third example on this next slide is Arrowhead Town Center. So this is one of the highest performing Macerich properties in the state. And despite it being a continual magnet for attracting new development to the Northwest Valley, so Barrio Queen most recently came to the West Valley there, Portillo's is about to open in April. And it consistently performs as a regional mall, but we all recognize that our marketplace is changing, and so is consumer behavior. And so as a city, we approached our partners at Macerich and proactively have come to the table to open the dialogue about the city's willingness to formalize flexibility as it relates to allowable and desirable uses that can continue to maximize the value and viability of this property. It was important for us to all be honest about that and recognize that we need to be ready to welcome new uses that weren't traditionally seen as part of a regional mall, and that would position us and the private sector to be responsive and adaptable to the future, to ensure the best of our ability, the success of this regional asset. And I say that as a regional asset because just in this picture, it's south, but it's at the top of the picture. That's our border with Peoria. And so we recognize that this asset really does, our success with this asset really benefits Peoria, and equally so their success benefits ours in this area. And so this has been a really important endeavor of ours, not an easy one, but an important one for us to be able to be prepared for whatever changes might come. And so on this final slide, for us here in Glendale, we wanted to suggest that there's obviously more examples in this area that prove that the development community has recognized that our Northwest Valley value proposition, and they've made the investment, right? But there's still great opportunities here in Glendale to join us too. So despite what you might see as quite built out, there's over 24 infill opportunities alone in this area for commercial development. You see all of those in the small little signs posted in that map. And we're definitely here ready to be, adaptable to whatever might come next. Again, I super appreciate the opportunity for us to get to be here to tell this Glendale story. And I believe it is now my pleasure to turn it over to my colleague, Kirsten Hall in Peoria.
I did that unmute thing. Thank you so much, Jesse. I appreciate hearing that. What's so exciting for me is to focus on the Northwest Valley because that's where I grew up. I graduated from Barcelona Elementary School, from Alhambra High School, and from Grand Canyon with my MBA. The growth that I've seen here is just it blows my mind, and the flexibility, really the innovation that the cities are showing right now to meet that growth is it's truly something to see. So I've been with the city of Peoria for 7 years. I'm the business attraction program manager and have been part of some really exciting projects that are coming up. I wanted to start with this slide that kind of gives you an overview of what the city looks like lots of the cities. It's very long, and we break it up as we're talking about it just informally, south, central, north. So quickly, just the highlights of what have happened in each of those. South Peoria starts at Northern Avenue, and our northernmost borders are Yavapai County, which is kind of blows your mind. We're the only city with a regional lake. It's 11.5 square miles. In a city that's 141 square miles with about 186,000 people and growing. In kind of our south section, we've got Park West shopping center that has a beautiful facelift. We've gotten some high-end restaurants that are Jalapeno Inferno, Sicilian Butcher and Baker, Hash Kitchen, so on and so forth. The group of restaurants, there's many more, those group of restaurants are on target to make $4 to $5 million this year. That's incredible. There's never been a time that I've driven by there that it hasn't been packed. It's completely a pent-up demand. We want more where the citizens ask for more. Moving a little bit northward, Valleywise Medical Center was built on Grand Avenue and Cotton Lane. That unlocked a parcel for us of about 100 more acres. We've got medical office zone, we've got industrial, and then residential as well. That's just to the east of the city center. Moving up to central, Peoria, we've got a couple of great office projects I'll talk about later. And then in the north, we'll talk about the incredible growth, Peoria Regional Hospital, like Sam mentioned, and some MOB development. So the next slide, I've got something specific. I kind of approach this as, let me show you what's happening, but what are the possibilities? So we've got a city-owned site. It's 15 acres now. We've got another 1 acre of that parcel on the southwest corner of Peoria Avenue and 101. The city is looking to make a medical office plaza, and excited about that. There is no medical office in that area, and it's very, very dense as far as population goes. It has access to 4 regional hospitals. So we think this would make a great Class B office, medical office, and give kind of regional access to wherever the docs need to be. So the next slide is Stadium Point. A lot of you have heard about that. We're very, very excited about it. It's about 1 million square feet of mixed use. We've got office, Class A office. We've got stacked parking, retail, residential, hotel. And we're hoping that the development agreement gets before council on March 2nd. With that green light, everything kind of gets started after that. It will be a phased project, as you might guess, and American Life is the developer. Ashley Books with Seabury and his counterpart in Seattle are the lead brokerage team that have already brought a lot of technology companies to the Valley. People often ask, what's the first thing that's going to get built? And the first thing is going to be the stacked parking. The city's responsible for replacing the flat parking that's on the spring training complex. And then American Life will probably do an office tower and restaurants as well. Right across the street from that, we've got developers working on the area where McDuffie's is, if anybody knows what the former McDuffie's is, on 83rd Avenue and Mariners Way. And that looks to be two-story buildings, two buildings, multi-story, and subterranean parking. And if you know Peoria, Peoria was built as a suburban city when that was the thing to do, when the I-10 was not a parking lot. To have this volume of office come to our city is really exciting. That will, Bell Road will really be the gateway, and all the amenities that Jesse talked about are right there for the office folks to take advantage of. On the next slide, I wanted to do a quick comparison of some numbers. If you drop a pin at 83rd Avenue and Bell Road, where Stadium Point is going to go, the population within 30 minutes is 2.2 million. You can see by comparison, Gilbert, Tempe, and North Phoenix, it's right in there with a very, very rich and very deep talent pool. So we're not worried at all that, that the workforce won't get there. Sam alluded to that office development has lagged, and I think there is a pent-up demand. We have a very smart, educated workforce that would love to live and work in the same place. I've highlighted down below in the teeny tiny font that Peoria has a majority of the management, finance, office support, sales, basically the fire industries. As well as medical. Medical is on the top as well there too. Thank you so much. The next slide. We're going to go up north. In North Peoria, as you might imagine, we've got incredible growth. I just want to point out that bend in the 303, kind of down below, right above Vistancia, there are 27,000 homes that are due to be built, and they're 25% built out. That's astounding. So they're here, they're coming, and more are coming on top of that. Peoria Regional Hospital, we're so excited about. Quorum does want to expand in the Valley. This is the first place that they landed. They actually started the project 11 years ago when it was Peoria Regional Medical Center. And probably one of the most exciting things for the city is the steel structure that stood there like a skeleton against the horizon is gone. And it was kind of fun because it's right next to basis schools. All the kids from the elementary school were up against the chain link fence at recess. They were like, go, 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 go. And then the steel came down and they cheered. It was a lot of fun. Lots of medical office projects in that area as well. Call me and I'll talk to you about them. So in this area here, we're calling this the Opportunity Triangle, and mostly because Phoenix has TSMC and all that's coming in that area. I just talked about the growth area, the big red circle. Top left, the Quintero Golf Course. It was purchased out of bankruptcy with excess land and a back road to Lake Pleasant, Lake Pleasant. And so we're thinking that one of the resort developers, one of the many that has kind of been hovering over there looking at it, would make a great resort. You already have your golf course built. It would make a beautiful destination style resort. And we're hoping that will happen. Sam mentioned the Peoria Regional Airport, which is kind of south and east of Quintero. And that makes, that gives us a unique opportunity. And then down at the bottom, Vistancia Tech Park will share about 400 acres with land set aside for a high school, also for a park. And what's left is probably, I don't know, maybe 300 acres of buildable land. The city has rights to some of that land to offer to the right employer. And we're thinking that makes a great support for our attraction efforts in the semiconductor industry based on what's coming into Phoenix. So the final slide is just a look to the future. We're not marketing these. This is state land here, but this colorful crazy quilt, if you will, we share the border with Phoenix. Right next to Phoenix are these other mega sites, and we're probably one of the few cities that has these mega sites left. All told, that's about 2,000 acres, just under 2,000 acres, and it would make some wonderful land for employment, mixed use, aerospace and R&D and that type of thing. So Peoria is so excited for our future. Right now, we are very busy with the projects that I talked about and a few more. Excited to make those announcements soon. But Sam, thank you for inviting us in.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, ladies. And I am glad to round out our presentation, just a few slides about Surprise, and then happy to get to the Q&A. So in Surprise, with all the economic factors we've talked about, and I think Jessie said it well when she mentioned regionalism, it's really important. All of our cities rely on each other. And when Peoria succeeds, when Glendale, when Phoenix succeeds, Surprise is happy, and likewise, they're happy for us because our residents win, and that's the main thing. For Surprise, we have 4 main strategic industry targets, appropriately acronymed AIMS: advanced manufacturing, innovation and entrepreneurship, medical travel, and signature retail. So before I show you where those go, I want to put a finer point on this medical demand that all 4 of us have talked about. So what I have here is a list of top medical specialty appointment demands. So this is the growth factor for each of these. These are the largest growth percentages on our list of all the medical demand that we expect. And what do you see here? Pediatric, 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 pediatric. And this makes sense because of that residential growth, the family growth, the youth that we're seeing. You can see here, pediatric medicine is going to grow by 50% in the next 5 years. So if you are in the medical development space, I think the time is now, especially if you have access to those doctors with that pediatric specialty. Okay, so within Surprise, our planning area is 300 square miles. So far, about 30 of those have seen significant development, as you see here on the picture, and we have about 6 square miles that we focus on strategically. So we'll go through those. First, we'll start at the Loop 303. In Surprise, this area is known as Persada, and it's going to look a lot different from the development that's taken place along the highway so far. This land is outside of the Luke Air Force Base noise contours. So that means that the highest and best use for this land is not distribution and manufacturing, rather employment center, destination retail and entertainment, hospitality, medical campus. Persada is a master plan development area that entered the market about 15 years ago through a partnership between Suburban Land Reserve, Red Development, and Macerich. And to date, there are several thousand square feet of retail already in place, including 9 auto dealerships, which are often top performing in the Valley. We have a Fry's and a Walmart anchored retail corner. And most recently, Costco opened its doors in September, and is again another top performing location for the company. And last year, Simon CRE purchased 60 acres of Persada and has around 500,000 square feet of retail planned. Many of those square feet are already committed to tenants, and they're seeing significant interest in the balance of the space from large household names. There's also acreage dedicated for future hospitality, future office space, family entertainment centers, and residential development. And Persada is already surrounded by 10,000 plus rooftops. Sterling Grove by Toll Brothers is going to add another 2,200 homes. And really, this development is a game changer for us. We are starting to get our $1 million households in Surprise. Those homes start at $300,000 up to $1 million properties on that new golf course we talked about earlier. So let's move over to Surprise City Center. This is Surprise's downtown. It's 1 square mile. It's the same size as downtown Phoenix and is owned by the Surprise Center Development Company. It's directly adjacent to 1 million square feet of retail at Bell and Grand. And over the past 10 years, Surprise Center Development Company has developed what we lovingly call Lunch Lane along Bell Road with some of our residents' favorite restaurants, as well as partnered with us to create a 150-acre Civic Center campus, which is home to City Hall, the city and county courts, the tennis and racquetball complex, a lake, a library, an aquatic center, Surprise Stadium, home to the Royals and the Rangers. Hope y'all come out and catch one of those few seats that are left for spring training this year. and Ottawa University. And this investment has created a very walkable campus full of potential corporate amenities. You can see from the master plan that's shown here that there's room for everything that a downtown needs: retail, mixed use, commercial, office, medical, education, entertainment, and residential. In fact, there are over 1,000 residential units in place or in play here already. So between the Royals and the Rangers player housing, Sparrow Developments, Mara at City Center, there's a couple townhome communities, as well as more apartments and condos in conversation just as we're speaking now, which is a little bit interesting and in contrast to downtown Phoenix, which I love spending time down there. I've loved watching it grow. The last thing to go in has been residences. For Surprise, it's the first thing to go in. So we've already got that youthful skilled workforce ready and waiting. And just about a mile away is the Surprise Railplex. It's a 2 square mile suburban industrial park in Surprise. It's home to primarily advanced manufacturing, industrial, distribution, and construction related companies. But it's pretty unique in terms of a development area because it has an abundance of utilities available. 2 APS substations. The city water campus is there with water, wastewater, reclaimed water, gas and fiber in the arterials. Our newest amenity is a fire station, which will serve the Railplex tenants and serve their very specific hazmat situations, and a rail spur. We also in the northwest corner have an entertainment district. There's grocery stores, pharmacies, banks, restaurants, a bowling alley. What a great employee attraction and retention amenity. If you think about industrial parks, your mind generally goes to somewhere far away, 10 miles, not convenient. For us, very convenient. In fact, the president of Iris USA, which you see there kind of in the middle, he used to bike to work. He would ride his bike from his house a mile away to work. And so we think that's a really great benefit of a suburban setting. And then finally, we have 2 large BNSF certified shovel-ready sites. BNSF came in, did their due diligence and said, yep, thumbs up, these sites are truly shovel-ready. And our newest development area in Surprise is just north of the Loop 303 on Highway 60. You can see there are already several established neighborhoods with around 25,000 residents. Of those 3,000 annual permits that we're seeing, a lot of them are in this area. And the city has invested in community amenities like the Asante Library, a fire station, and the earliest retail player was Dollar General. And I have to say, this has to be the highest rated, best ranked Dollar General probably in the world. You should see all their 5-star reviews. But just a few weeks ago, Barclay Group announced that they're developing a Fry's anchored retail complex with room for more stores, more retail. So if you are into neighborhood level retail development, this is where you need to be. And then finally, our department founded the AZ Tech Accelerator in 2009, which is a startup incubator, small business accelerator program in our old city hall. And we used this really to create our own economy. It was 2009. That was terrible. So over the years, it's been home to tenants like Google, and it's currently has award-winning members like MagQ and Resuture. It's housed in our old city hall campus, 60,000 square feet of office, which we use for temporary space, or if a company commits to Surprise and is building a new facility, they can take some office space there, do their business ramp up activities like hiring or training. And it's also certified by the International Business Incubation Association as a soft landing site. And this just means that we've had the experience and success of assisting international companies to successfully enter the US market. And so we're super excited and glad to have that amenity in Surprise. So with that, Lindsay, I'd love to answer any questions that you see floating around. Thanks so much again.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you to all of our panelists. We will open it up for questions. I saw a few come in, so I'm going to get started with those, but please enter your questions in the chat box or feel free to unmute yourself when we have an opportunity here. But first question, I believe, is for Christine. People want to know what Dead Man's Wash is named after, it's named after.
Of course, that's my favorite part. And as soon as I said it, I realized I'd forgotten the guy's name, but it is a dead man that they found in the wash. And I'll send it out to AZ Crews where they can send it out. It's literally as soon as I send it, I'm like, somebody's going to ask me that question. I forgot the guy's name. But he's a founding Phoenix family member. So I'll send it out to you and you can send it out to everyone.
Sounds great. So, and I just wanted to just quick mention to everyone, we are going to make these slides available on our website. So we'll make sure to put a little note with the guy's name with those slides so you guys can access that later along with the recording. Second question, I believe got answered already, but I'll bring it up in front of the group just in case they didn't see it. There was a question about the Legacy Sports Arena and what's going on with that.
Yep, happy to take that one. So as you can imagine, a 1,500 seat venue for hockey in a hotel under construction during the pandemic, the developer and owner of the project paused during the pandemic, and he's working with our planning and development department now as to when they would restart construction. But their plans are to restart construction again so they can deliver as the pandemic is ending, as we all hope the pandemic's ending.
Fingers crossed. So I have another question. This one's kind of a loaded question for all of you. It's, what lesson did COVID provide to the cities? So I don't know who wants to take that one first, at least.
Well, I'll jump in because I'm very proud of our team, our small business support team that jumped in. We're the only city that has a unique contract with SBDC, Small Business Development Centers, between our business concierge program at the city, the chamber, SBDC, and ASU's Peoria Forward program. The minute the lockdown happened, everyone got on the phones. They enlisted the help of some other folks in the city that weren't as busy. And they called immediately 3,000 of our small businesses, got information, just where support, how are you doing, that type of thing. The businesses have responded so well to that. Then when the resources started coming out, the CARES Act funding, we have a CDBG grant, that kind of thing. It just opened up those lines of communication that probably would not have happened had we not been in an emergency pandemic.
I love that perspective. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd love to. From Glendale, I think, and Kirsten, I think, this is part of that regionalism we learned from each other during COVID, right? So I think especially here in the West Valley, we got to do that with each other because we have a lot of crossover in some of our businesses as well. I would say from Glendale's perspective, we also learned back to really our approach of being adaptable. That was something that Glendale had been run through the ringer in the past, and we had to learn how to be adaptable well before this. And so not only from a community standpoint, but also from just our staff and, an employee base at the city to understand how to quickly adapt to an experience that none of us had been through and really knew what to do with. And really the diversification of our economy really came into play for us. So when you look at that, the shape of Glendale in particular, and it affords us a lot of different opportunity when it comes to various different targeted industries. And so what we recognized specifically during this time, that while there was a significant amount of our business community that we needed to serve and address, we also had a significant amount of development that was not stopping and pressing us very hard on that Loop 303 area, specifically in industrial development. And that construction sales tax, we were, I think, 94% year over year, even through COVID, in increases. And so that type of sales tax increase really helps you be able to provide services throughout an entire city. And so diversification of our industries throughout the city was a huge test and lesson that we learned.
Great. Okay, we have one from Kathy Thuringer. For all presenters, how are the represented cities approaching issues related to infrastructure in future growth areas?
So it's Chris. I'll be happy to take that. Well, at least kick off that one. If you ask me what's the single thing that keeps me up at night as an economic developer, it's infrastructure. That is the hardest thing for cities to deal with. When the legislature put a cap on the city's ability, so we bond for our infrastructure, and you can bond at 20% of your assessed valuation for your infrastructure needs. During the Great Recession, the legislature put a cap on how fast those assessed valuations could increase again. Before, they'd been increasing with market value. We could bond at 20% of our assessed valuation. Our cap was up here. We were down here. You cut 50% of those values and immediately they became right on top of each other. So where cities didn't used to have challenges with providing infrastructure at all, it's something that we all face great reality of today. And prioritizing Phoenix is a tale of two cities. So outside my window, we have the oldest water line in the city that's being replaced right now at 103 years old. But we have areas like Biscuit Flats that have never seen a shovel. And so you've got this wild change, and prioritizing those repairs of old infrastructure with growth of new areas is something that we're working diligently on. So it is through community facility districts, it's through improvement districts, it's through development agreement and reimbursement agreements to jobs generating projects that we can then share back construction sales tax and new sales tax to help refund that infrastructure. But one of the best things about Phoenix is the city manager brings all the departments together to talk about where that infrastructure should be. It's planning and development, it's streets, it's public works, it's water and sewer, but they put economic development at the table so that we can talk about where we see the need for things like that. As an example, for TSMC, the city's putting in $205 million of new infrastructure. It lights up all 3,400 acres of that area. So it's a strategic move that we made based on where where revenue could be created and new development could come to. But our greatest challenge as a city
politics in a Phoenix City Council election
is that
ballots,
issue. Sorry.
Attack ad.
And somebody who just sent something to me, it jumped right in. That's crazy. It is, it just loaded automatically. I got Zoom bombed for the first time in my career. So, but it's infrastructure that is the greatest issue we all face, and how to fund that infrastructure.
Well, I think that was a great explanation. Does anyone else want to weigh in on that? Okay. I will move on to probably the last question here, as time is getting short, and it's probably a question you get often, all of you. Are there discussions, and this is from a few people, happening for permitting as it relates to heavy workloads and turnaround times? I don't know who wants to kick it off there.
I'd be happy to jump in just really quickly. Again, the cities are facing more building permits. As my colleagues have said, our growth is astronomical. Our industrial book of business is off the charts. Our manufacturing is up 308% year over year. We can't build industrial buildings fast enough, and we're filling them. It's a great demand. The good news is, for those of you that are listening, is Alan Stevenson tomorrow at the City Council is taking additional plan review and permitting and inspection positions forward to be able to add more staff onto Phoenix's plan review. So hopefully we'll see those times get shorter soon.
We second that in Glendale. We're noticing we were having to do the same thing, and certainly that is where a significant number of FTEs are being requested and added as well, just to simply keep up with that demand.
Likewise.
Same.
Good.
Yeah, in Peoria. We're chasing it.
I love it. Music to our ears for all of us, I'm sure. Well, this is it for us. I wanted to thank all of our panelists, so Christine, Kirsten, Jesse, Samantha, thank you so much for being part of our panel. We've really enjoyed having you and learned a lot. And I think the adaptability and flexibility and all the different diverse industries that you guys are gearing your cities towards is amazing and great for us all. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, Lindsay.